We're both really phlegmy over here.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, you're fucking welcome.
Okay.
You've given me so many barfs over the last 6 months.
2. I've given you 2.
Nuh-uh.
Yes.
I barfed 3 times.
Oh. Excuse me, princess.
And I got strep. Sometimes you're going to get sick from me.
Fair enough.
As you stare at me pensively from across the room.
We're in the same room.
Yay!
And this is Are You With Me Right Now? Episode 24.
Which I just signed to him across the room. I'm taking credit this time.
Yep, because I'm not smart. I'm not smart enough to know numbers.
Counting is hard, honey.
That's okay. You'll learn it.
No.
You're almost done with school.
For now.
Yeah.
Speaking of our show title, I just had to ask that question for the first time in like multiple months today, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
That like there was that much of a hiatus.
I agree.
So yeah, who's going to go first? You've had an eventful evening.
I mean, yeah, I just broke my phone again after fixing it 2-ish months ago. It was like a $300 repair. And I just broke it again. Thanks, Google Pixel 2, the most fragile piece of shit I've ever owned. I mean, it's a nice phone. I like it software-wise. And, I mean, hardware-wise, too. But yeah, I mean, it shatters. If you look at it, I've never had a phone this fragile before, ever. And this is my 4th smartphone, I guess. Maybe 5th.
When are you getting a flip phone?
And as soon as this one's irreparable.
Again?
Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating. What are you going to do?
Yeah, all I heard from the other room was, "Oh, no." And I was like, "Oh, God."
Yeah.
And you were like mentally committing suicide.
Yeah, I'm dead inside now.
You already were.
Yeah. True.
True stories.
So what's going on? You just had therapy. Let's talk about your therapy.
I did. Let me remember. Oh, God. I was a mess in this therapy session, which is kind of good. I mean, the more you cry in therapy, the more you're using it, right?
I don't know. I've never cried in therapy.
That was like to prove my point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to go home to my home state this weekend, and I've been sick for a few days. Like, just my body feels like shit. And I'm very overwhelmed with other people's expectations of me right now. Like, I've always had a few friends that have made me the therapist friend. And I've never known how to set those boundaries. Like I'm not your therapist. Like, there is a way to help as a friend, but at some point it becomes really unhealthy and there's too much attachment there. Like, it oversteps.
And we've talked about that a few times, I guess.
Yes, this is a recurring pattern throughout my life. So yeah, we have talked about it definitely before. And so I was talking about all of those things with my therapist, and I was just crying the whole time, like crying and laughing just kind of on and off because I was just tired. And my car's broken. I needed to go home and get it fixed, but I had been sleeping like 15 hours a night for the past 2 nights. I was just fucking over it, and I don't know. I just didn't want to go home because people expected me to, which has been a theme before, and which has also reduced me to a crying child before. Like, I hate going home because home is a hard place for me to go to a lot of the time. And when someone thinks I should, even if it's, ultimately for my safety or for something good like fixing my car, like, I hate that. And I was just tired. I wanted to stay home and be taken care of. But he just said, step outside of yourself and ask yourself what she wants. And what came to mind was she wants to rest. She wants to be taken care of by her boyfriend. And I think that was it. It was she wants to just go home. Oh, and she wants to focus on school because I have a paper due tomorrow night. It was just too much. We talked about that. And about, I guess the general takeaway was that, like, and this is what he tells me probably every session, is that I don't have to do shit. No matter how much somebody else wants me to, I don't have to do anything unless I want to. We talked about how, before I started dating you, and this is not about you at all, but before I got in another relationship, I really had leaned into the persona of I'm going to do whatever I want. And, if you're not a fan of it for some reason, then I'm sorry, but that's fine. And that's this is my choice and what's good for me. And I think necessarily as you get into a relationship, you lose a little bit of that because you have to give a shit about how your decisions and stuff affect your significant other. And I made sure of that with my therapist. I'm like, that's a little bit normal, right? I lose a little bit of that overall when I get in a relationship. I get much more sensitive about how I affect other people. And that translates in this second to my family and to the friends that depend on me in an unhealthy way. It does get hard to remember that my choices are mine, and literally however anybody else, takes them is a matter of their health and their decisions and not mine. As long as I'm doing things with a good intention and with, keeping myself safe, in a good way, not in a living out of fear sort of way. If someone wants to be mad at me for it, then fuck them. So it was good, and I just really needed a good cry. There are just those times every few weeks where I just need to let it out. I was funny. I kept apologizing to him. He's like, you act like I haven't seen you do this every week for 6 months. I'm like, shut up, okay? He wasn't even talking to me funny. I'm just like, I'm so sorry. And I kept apologizing to you for feeling sick. Because when I feel when I ask for something, when I'm physically sick and there's not much to do about it, I feel greedy. I feel selfish. Yeah, and I feel like I'm, draining other people. Despite the fact that taking a day to be an actual lazy shit and watch movies and ask for breakfast is not the worst thing in the world. So, therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I've never really, I guess I've never really struggled with other people's perception all that much. I mean, I sometimes I struggle with empathy, of course, but I guess even still overall, I just don't care what other people think, really. I don't feel responsible for other people. I just don't.
Good.
Yeah. But I think
besides your kid.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, but yeah, I think, I don't know. Other people seem to have too much empathy, just from my perspective, where they care too much, about what other people think and feel and what they do and stuff like that. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I can be selfish sometimes, but
good.
I mean, yeah,
it's good to care about yourself and care about what you want. And when empathy crosses a line into being unhealthy, it's not empathy anymore, it's codependence.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel codependent.
I wouldn't call you codependent, but you have had codependent-ish relationships in the past.
Yeah.
Which is interesting and confusing. Because I would not call you codependent in the slightest. My therapist laughs sometimes, or we laugh with each other. He's like, just because I'm anxious and because I have BPD, sometimes I forget or just whatever, tizzy myself up into forgetting that, there are so many things that you value in me. And sometimes my therapist will be like, if you were more trouble than you're worth, he would kick you to the curb. It's happened. If you were bad with his kid and you were a liability, you would not be there. So cut yourself some slack and realize that you're doing really fucking awesome. And he loves you and appreciates you. And you bring a lot to the table. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, and you've done that before. Not to me, obviously.
Yeah.
But a codependent person would not leave.
Lower the mic a little bit.
A codependent person, was that right? Right? Okay. A codependent person wouldn't just kick someone out. A codependent person would go back over and over again, but I don't see anything codependent in you besides that long relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've started going to therapy twice a week now. Have we recorded since my last? No.
Twice a month.
Twice a month, yeah. I probably should be going twice a week.
Same.
There's a lot to talk about. I'm old.
True.
And I mean, I really upped the frequency because I feel like I'm not getting enough out of an hour. I mean, we'll kind of plan on talking about something, but then we'll just go off on a tangent and we'll just really stick to that tangent. I mean, sometimes we'll stick to that tangent for the whole episode or for the whole, the episode. I mean, the whole session. And I'm unpacking things, but there's just so many things to unpack. Sometimes it's hard to see progress, but I know that there is progress being made because I'll go back and she's learning more about me. She'll bring up topics, and sometimes she'll bring up things like I'll talk about my oldest brother. I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, and she seemed like flabbergasted by that the other day as if I'd never really talked about him. And I probably haven't because he and I have such a stable relationship. You know, it's never been... There's nothing really to unpack with my oldest brother other than...
He's really great.
Yeah, he is. He's been a good influence on me. Well, kind of. If I took influence from him, which I should, he would be, he's a good role model for sure. He serves as a good role model. That's what I mean. But yeah, I don't know. She's really trying to figure out why I stayed with my ex-wife as long as I did. Like why that seems to have codependent qualities, which we've never brought that word into it. Because she even identifies that apparently I use different language about my ex-wife than I do about anybody else. I mean...
Such as?
My other relationships and stuff.
Yeah, but like what language?
I mean, I talk about her the most. Just because we're trying to figure it out. I mean, because it was so significant, because it was so long term. What positive things did I gain from that relationship? I mean, we know the negative. The negative is just pretty much primarily that just she reminded me too much of my dad. And that's a no-go for me.
Really?
Yeah, I thought we talked about this.
I did not know that.
Really?
Oh, that's really interesting.
I thought we talked about this.
No.
Okay. I guess I've talked about it with her so much that I assumed it was you.
Fair enough.
Because I've had this conversation with her a few times that, I mean, yeah, the relationship I saw my parents have was that my dad just sat around and didn't do anything. And my mom did all the work.
I remember this. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you meant in like I was thinking like authority way.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Because that's what we've been talking about in the context of your dad recently.
Yeah.
Of like his basically like twisting the truth or hiding parts of himself to have some sort of like blind authority over you. That's where my mind went. I remember what you are saying now.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. No. Yeah, just the aspect in that he treated my mom and that I didn't like that and that I don't want to be treated that way. Because, I mean, it's not healthy. That's not a healthy relationship.
Not a relationship.
Right. Which, I mean...
In my opinion.
Yeah. There are other positives of the relationship, but I don't know.
Were there positives? I believe that there were, because, I mean, why would you keep going back?
Right.
But...
That's what my therapist keeps asking me. That's what we keep that's what we're really trying to figure out is what were the positives? What did I take away from it? What did I learn from it? How do I take the healthy parts of that relationship, the longevity of it, and transfer that to another relationship?
Okay. So answering that question is the mission right now.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I mean,
cool.
That's my personal overall goal, kind of. I mean, it's just having a better relationship, but I think this is the way that she sees most important in achieving that. And it is. This is my most significant relationship, so there's a lot to unpack there. So that's what we're doing. But also, we've really started unpacking my other relationships now. She counted 17.
Oof.
I only counted 12. So yeah, I've increased my frequency to try and unpack more, to get more done. Because it's tough. Sometimes you play catch up if you don't go often enough. I mean, not really catch up, but there's other things that have happened over the course of the month that you need to talk about. You don't get to the bigger picture because you're trying to, also mention the small things.
Yeah, if you've got to keep updating, then you lose a lot of the session.
Yeah.
Just over time to,
Yeah.
making up basically.
Yeah.
And my old therapist, she was really nice and I liked her a lot. But we just kind of stopped. I stopped getting something out of it. Like I was ready to move on basically.
How long did you see her?
I started seeing her when my big college boyfriend, whatever, cheated on me and all that. And I met that therapist through his therapist because I saw his therapist with him for like a session or two because I was drowning in every sense of the word. And whatever, that's a long story. And so I started seeing her in July.
After he cheated on you, you went to his therapist with him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone here that I trusted to like help me. I couldn't even tell anyone. I was so ashamed. And his parents were like, well, fuck you. It only matters that our son is okay. I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, he referred me to his friend or his, fellow therapist. And she was incredible. I really loved her and felt safe with her. But our sort of therapy just outran its usefulness with me. It was just talk therapy. And I started in July of 2017 and I was with her for about a year. I was with her right up until I started like my hoe phase. Yes, it was a little less than a year. Should have been start of summer 2018. And this is kind of a dumb comparison, but I'm just trying to say I can feel the same way. Like I started being active in the kink community and a lot of my like interactions at the very end of our therapy relationship had to do with my like figuring myself out sexually and like in the kink community. And every time I said anything about kink, I had to explain the whole concept of BDSM to her. And it would take up so much of a session because she just didn't really get it and it wasn't her area. And not like she was shaming it or like, ugh, or anything.
She
but
young?
No, she was old.
Okay. She
was like a 60-something, 70-year-old Israeli woman. God, she was awesome. She's still in the city that I live in. And so, but yeah, like it was the minutia of, catching up from the month or detailing some very non-important, like, basic topic, basically, that would take up way too much of the session. It just got very dumb.
Yeah. And I don't feel like that with my therapist. I like her a lot. She's older.
She's nice.
Yeah, she's ridiculously well read, I guess. I mean, she seems to have a grasp on all of these concepts that I would ever bring up to her, She is also attempting to get me to talk about my mom. I might have mentioned that to you.
You did.
Yeah.
You said she is also finding it impossible to get information about her from you.
Yeah. We kind of started talking about her, but it diverged off into a conversation about one of my brothers almost immediately.
Are you going to keep going, or is that where that story ends?
The end.
No. Tell me about your mother, please.
I mean, I don't know what to say. I guess that's the thing. That's what... You have to be more specific to draw out something. I can't just... I don't know.
Excuse me, princess. I mean, do you have any stories about her? Something that you would look back on fondly, like something fun you guys did together, or something that you loved about her? Maybe that's still too vague, but I think that's pretty reasonable.
I mean, it's kind of vague. I mean, because, everything. I mean, she was my mom.
True, but I mean, I could ask you, tell me something your brother did that you hated, and you could come up with that really easily.
Yeah.
It's the same question.
I mean, it's the opposite side of the coin, though. So it's a little bit different. I mean, I could tell you a story that, I that wasn't great about mom. I mean...
You have told me one that was not great.
Oh, yeah.
Not saying you can't. I'm just saying you already have.
Right. But that was nothing. I mean, that was whatever. No, it was 20. What year was it? I guess it was 04. It was either 4 or 5. It was when I got that glass trophy thing. It's an award that I got just for something. I don't know why I got it. Somehow I got an award.
My very accomplished man.
Yeah. And we had to go. I mean, we drove, I guess, about 120 miles to a city to receive the award.
Jesus.
Yeah. And just being in the car with her that long, I guess, I found out she was smoking again.
Ooh.
And she wasn't supposed to be. This is as far back as she wasn't supposed to be smoking. She passed away in 2012, and she was supposed to have quit smoking, 8 years before that. So yeah, there's a story about my mom. I mean, she, and that's one thing that my therapist kind of took away from it, is that my mom was really supportive. I mean, she, we drove across the state to receive an award. She wanted to be there for that because it was important to her. Yeah, I mean, she was just a really supportive mom. She was always the parent to go on like field trips and stuff. I mean, not always, but when she could, she did. When we were real little, she got annoyed by this kid who was just really annoying. Because back then I was friends with like the serious misfits. So yeah, she was driving and we got stuck with 2 or 3 kids that I was kind of friends with. One of them was kind of annoying. And he was extra annoying on this trip.
What'd she do?
She was annoyed.
Did she say anything to him?
No, not really.
You could just tell she was annoyed.
We all were.
I just nodded into the microphone.
Yep.
Riveting. Well, I'm going to keep asking you. Not right now.
Okay.
But I'm going to keep asking you because I want to hear good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to know what your mom was like.
She was funny. I would describe her as a strong person. She was she worked hard. She was very driven. I mean, she always kept the house clean. She cooked, she cleaned, she did the yard work. She kind of did everything. I guess that's why I lack a lot of really personal stories about her, is because she was always being a mom. She was never being someone I really connected to, because she was just primarily like a caregiver,
Huh. It's interesting that you say it that way because she is the parent you connected to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm confused.
I mean, you see my relationship with the rest of my family, though. I mean, I'm not like a family person. I very much keep to myself when it comes to family things.
And yet you want 25 kids?
I mean, I hated going on vacations and stuff.
Same.
Because it was, well, no, I mean, I had a nice family, though. I mean, Dad was annoying and whatever, but that's not why I hated vacation. I hated vacation because I didn't have friends and video games there. I just had probably my Game Boy and a CD player. So yeah, I mean, I'd listen to music and I'd play my Game Boy, and that's about all I did on vacation. We'd go to the mountains or the beach, and I would try and pass the time as quickly as possible so I could come back and hang out with friends again.
What kind of funny was your mom? Did she tell cheesy jokes or was she sarcastic?
Yeah, not cheesy jokes. She wasn't really a joke person, but I don't know. She just had a good time. She was always, I guess she was a little goofy sometimes, but.
Anything else to report?
I don't know. Am I missing anything? We haven't had sex in 2 years. We haven't had time to be close lately.
No, every time I've seen you lately, we've seen each other is when you're at work. And I'm assisting with watching the baby. And you said earlier today that seeing each other while you're working doesn't count as seeing each other.
Right.
Which I agree with.
I mean, it does, but it's not.
Not this time especially. I didn't see you at all.
Right.
Which is fair because you're working.
Yeah, it's not really, it's not intimate, I guess. I'm glad you're there to help me take care of my kid. I really appreciate that. Not in just a pushing my kid off on you kind of way, but just in the fact that this is a family sort of thing. It feels like a family sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope it doesn't feel like I'm pushing my kid off on you for sure.
No, it just sounds like it when I say it, but I know you're not.
Right.
And I always send you a million videos of her because she and I are really dumb together.
Yeah, you are. And it's really funny. I'm glad she loves you as much as she does.
I love her very much.
So yeah, we just haven't had intimate time lately, so.
Yeah, and we did sleep together last night, but I was sick and asleep.
Yeah, it was late when I got home, and then I set my alarm early, but I didn't wake up early. I woke up late and had to go right back to work. So yeah, I came home from work and I slept next to you, and then I went right back to work.
We snuggled, though, and that was nice.
Did we?
Yeah.
I passed out hard.
Yeah, we snuggled. So the only other thing I have to add is also related to being busy, which is just that I got like a very small extra job. I told you about it and I was like, hell yeah, now I've got like X number of jobs. And and then after therapy, you told me, you're like, I'm kind of wondering why you did that. And I've never really been the workaholic. I mean, I guess I have actually, based on my school track record.
Yeah. I mean, you work a lot. You're driven. You do things. Yes.
I'm your mom.
Yeah.
Fun. Yeah, I guess I've never thought of myself as like someone who works a ton or whatever. I mean, what is it? Imposter syndrome where, yeah, I get all A's and shit, but just because I'm lucky or whatever, it's not because I actually do any work that's worth rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never really thought of myself as someone who works a lot or works really hard to earn, what she's doing. And also, I just took out my first student loans. And there are 5 digits of student loans because I cannot rely on anyone in my family to actually support me. When I was going through high school and college, earlier college, I really wanted to work. It makes me feel like independent and fulfilled when I have my own income. I feel like I'm earning my shit. But I was told all my life to not work on purpose, so that my parents could support me, and because I made more money with scholarships than I would have at some shitty ass part-time job, which is true. But it also really kept me dependent on them, which was really not good. But I'm really worried right now about my finances. And this is a big ACA thing too, is being consistently afraid of financial failure. And kind of creating that for yourself. I don't feel like I'm doing that, but kind of putting yourself in a state of worrying about your finances. And some people overspend. I'm not the best with money ever, but I'm not getting pushing myself out of my home. And I think I'm pretty damn responsible most of the time. I don't know. I'm very stressed about my finances right now. And I feel very alone in my finances. And I've had situations like this where oh my God. When I started back, when was that? God, a year ago when I started back at school after my year off. My dad decided it would be really fun to print out my trust fund. I don't even know how I got a copy of it, but he got my entire trust fund, sat down with it, and showed me all the ways that my mom was lying about the money that I have, which, is just a representation of how my parents have always fucked with my head regarding each other. There are so many legal things that I didn't know about my trust. I should have had the money myself years ago. And I never knew fully what it was supposed to be used for or how I could use it. I'd just been lied to and given half-truths for a really long time. Which, that's just the pattern of, I'm just going to give you only 2 of the 8 choices you have so that you make the right choice. And not being treated like an actual adult who can handle things. Or who has the right to make her own choices. And yeah, this was right, I think, in 2018. This is fairly recent, where I just said fuck this. And I remember just blowing money out my ass, because I was well, fuck you guys anyway. If you're not going to help me, if I can't hurt you, I'm going to hurt myself. And I just remember hemorrhaging money. I was in ACA and I was talking about this. And it didn't last all that long, but I was fuck you guys. I'm not going to go grocery shopping. Screw this. And I was so hurt because I couldn't trust either of my parents with my money. Neither of them actually gave a shit about me. It was all about hurting each other. So that is, I wouldn't say familiar to me, but I just made that connection of this has kind of happened before. If I've had some financial just fear and feeling alone in my, I don't know, because money is how my family has always shown love and quantified love. Where if I feel alone and very unsupported, it kind of translates through money. And I bought a Halloween costume how many months early at this point? I'm very excited about Halloween, so I'm not trying to be crazy.
Yeah, it didn't look that expensive though either.
No, it wasn't, but I'm buying things that I don't really need right now. Again, I'm not, spending myself out of house and home, and I'm being responsible. I can still afford everything. I can still afford my expensive car repair that's coming up next week. But this is reminding me of that.
Yeah.
And it's toned down, which hell yeah. A lot of me has toned down in the last few months, which is really fucking nice. But there's that connection of I feel very unsupported financially. And that's really scary to me. And I worry about being able to support myself. So I now have, 4 side jobs and a full course of master's classes. So it probably wasn't great to take that, but it's a small job. And I feel like I have to keep moving. That was probably super jumbled. Thanks for listening.
You're welcome. I love you.
I love you.
Sorry, I don't know how to respond to that.
That's okay. You don't really have to.
Right.
I'm kind of just trying to leave that headspace now because I'm now remembering really what it felt like to feel so backed into a corner that I had to like hurt myself because I couldn't hurt my parents. Or like I was hurting myself to hurt them as if either of them really would have given a shit. Like, it's not like they noticed. And my mom does care about me. I really don't give her enough credit, but hurting yourself doesn't get someone else's attention. It just hurts you. I'm feeling a little frantic right now just because I really remember that headspace right now. And that was very sad. I was very upset.
Yeah, the episode of Certain Scale I listened to today, there was a girl, a woman, I guess. She was recounting her story of being abducted by a serial killer, basically.
Which sounds fucking terrifying.
Yeah, but this girl was crazy. She was legitimately nuts, for real. The way that she was telling this story, it just seemed so... It was very vivid, which, I mean, okay. But it just felt very embellished, like she was telling some fantastic story, In the middle of it, she ends up escaping from the serial killer. Well, at one point she prays to God to release the twine that was binding her hands, and apparently the twine just fell off while she was in the trunk of this car. So yeah, I mean, there's elements of the story that are you made that up. She grew up without electricity. She could see in the dark perfectly. She had trained herself to see in the dark. And
she had trained herself?
Yeah.
It's not how that works.
And she figured out where the latch was on the trunk, so she opened it up, and then she closed it again. And then he got out and came around, and, of course, he pulled over to the side of the road. He got out and closed the trunk again, but she knew how to unlatch it. So he got back in the car. And
when was this?
This was 91 or 92 when it happened.
Did cars even have those sort of release latches on the inside at that point?
Well, no. And that was part of her story too, that this was 92 and cars didn't have the safety latches back then. So she found the actual, this is where the key comes in. And, she found the mechanism on the inside is what she said.
I don't know that that's possible.
So she ended up getting out of the car. Well, she ended up jumping out of the car and running down the side of the road. And there was a car that somehow a car passed by and she grabbed onto the rear view mirror, one of the side view mirrors. And she was running along with the car, but...
Was the car going 7 miles an hour? Are you fucking serious?
And the woman in the passenger seat was hitting her husband to keep going faster, to knock her off of the car.
I wouldn't let that bitch in my car either.
And then a truck pulled up, and it had 2 Marines in it, and they kind of saved her. They took her to the police. They didn't find the guy, I guess, even though
I was going to say, where the hell is he? He would have chased her down.
He was chasing her down the street with a machete, apparently, but somehow she...
Very discreet.
And so she got to the cops, and apparently nobody believed her. And apparently her parents also corroborated that you shouldn't believe her, that she just makes up fantastic stories, that she's a storyteller.
Well, isn't that cute?
And her excuse was yeah, I didn't have TV growing up, so I had to make up these great stories in my head. So yeah, my mom thought I was a storyteller or something. This girl is nuts. She's fucking crazy.
Why was she on the podcast?
Because she had escaped from a serial killer. Apparently, I guess the story was true. I don't know. They never really they never corroborated. They never said that they corroborated the story with the serial killer. He's still
serial
alive.
killer was it?
Something Alice, like not Eddie Alice, but something like that. I don't know.
Alice? Let's find out.
But it was such a wild story. Like listening, there was definitely some strange way that her parents raised her. She said that her parents were kind of violent. I mean, they sounded like shitty people, at least from the way that, she turned out. Either that or she had some just strange mental disorder that was physical, I guess.
Wait, say that again?
It sounds like her parents were pieces of shit just from the way that she was raised, I guess. From the I mean, she wasn't born crazy.
She didn't just pop out this way.
Right. I don't think so. But yeah, it was interesting because I'm sure that story was largely true. But I mean, I guess, we're talking about, I've got a couple of friends who are like that, who just embellish true stories.
True.
I don't understand why people do that. I guess they don't get enough attention as kids.
I mean, probably. I've said this in ACA before in that I embellish true stories.
You've told me this.
Yes. Not super often. I catch myself when I do it. But
Is that an embellishment or?
No, I tell you when I do it. Which means I don't do it that often. I used to do it all the fucking time though. It wasn't like crazy shit. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, I saw aliens or whatever. I got abducted by a murderer. But you tweak your stories because no one listens if it's not dramatic. So that's part of why I'm dramatic.
I mean, I've done it before, but just to make a better story, not because I needed attention,
Wow, good for you. You don't need attention.
No, trying to get rid of
my
attention.
Dick.
How do I get less attention?
Give it all to me. Anyway.
That's about all.
Peace out.
Peace out.